one knows what it's like to be the bad man, to be the sad man behind blue eyes. No one knows what it's like to be hated, to be fated, to telling only lies. But my dreams, they aren't as empty as my conscience seems to be. I have hours only lonely. My love is vengeance. Woo! But never free. No one knows what it's like to feel these feelings like I do, and I blame you. No one bites back as hard on their anger. None of my pain and woe can show through, but my dreams. Anyway, I was thinking, what makes a good show? Good show on YouTube. So I'm thinking one measure. I don't think there's any better measure than this, though there's some measures equally good. How much money do you make? And so that's one way of measuring whether a show is good. Then another way of measuring whether a show is any good is how much fun you have doing it. Another measure is how much satisfaction you get. So a show may not be fun. It may be really tough, difficult, draining, exhausting. But I may walk away from it with tremendous internal regard for what I did. I may even want to watch back parts of it. So that's another measure of how good a show is. Another measure is external validation. How many people watch? Or what do people I respect say about the show? What are the quality of the comments in the chat, in the comment section? So what's the quality of my viewership as opposed to just raw numbers? Because generally speaking, I'd rather have a higher quality of viewership and lower numbers than high numbers, low quality. So I could do certain topics, shallow topics, get more viewers, but it'd reduce the quality of the viewership. So come on, lady, what the heck? So yeah, quality of viewership, number of views, amount of money made, what's the feedback, how do I feel about it, like my internal sense. For example, with my writing, I know I've done a good piece of writing when I want to read it. When I look forward to reading it back, and I kind of feel the music to it, the rhythm of it. So I've almost never watched back any of my YouTube shows. But theoretically, if I have a really high internal regard for a show, then theoretically I could watch it back. Doesn't happen very much. Because we did a wild show last night, very different from the normal 5 p.m. shows. So Kevin Michael Grace didn't really get to make his points. So I was disappointed by that. But having Davis, MJ, or Rini on the show, I brought something that isn't typically on the show. He had something special to offer. Getting Rodney Martin back on the show, he had something to offer. Getting Duvid back, and had Northern on earlier this week, so it was kind of like getting the band back together again. So it was fun for nostalgia reasons. It was fun for a lot of people in the chat. So we had high viewership last night. We made a lot of money. I don't know. after YouTube takes their 30%, what, we probably made $100 or more from the show. Yeah, a lot of people like watching Andy Warski and Killstream. Doesn't mean that the shows are in particular any good. That's a comment in the chat. So yeah, so I don't primarily do these shows for the money. This is like hobby money, but it helps. And I think money is an excellent gauge of how much people value the shows. So I pay attention to a show that makes money. Like, oh, what did I do there? What made it valuable to people that they'd want to contribute to support the show? So I think that is an excellent metric. Then I enjoy witty, insightful comments like those of Glib Medley and Brundlefly and some others. Like virtually everyone I gave a wrench to, they tend to make consistent. What's the effect of the show? Does it enter the national conversation? Does it enter a local conversation? Does it get blogged about? Does it get video replies? And are these replies and commentary of high value? I think that's a good measure for a show. So I'm just thinking, because last night's show was very different, and I noticed in the chat they say any show with Kevin Michael Grace on is a good quality show. I agree. So generally speaking, in my shows there's only one rule. That is, nobody interrupts Kevin Michael Grace, because I love it when he gets rolling on a point. I often have no idea where he's going. He'll often produce insights that I've never thought of, and I don't like him interrupted in midstream. So last night he got interrupted a lot, which I don't like, but on the other hand, it was a different show. It was a fun show. It was Orini and Brundlefly and Rodney or brought something that was unique that just Kevin and I on our own we would have missed those contributions. So the more people I have on the panel, it can dumb down the conversation, or people don't really get to make their points because they get lost in the stream. On the other hand, just having two people doing the same show every day, like a married couple that just sits across from each other like 2 meals a day, that can get boring too. So I want Kevin absolutely to make all the points he wants to make. If one particular show he doesn't get to do it, then hey, it's the Goyim Defense League in the house with information about the Holodomor, which was the Ukrainian famine, I believe, under Stalin. So usually I find a show tiring and exhausting. Occasionally it's just so much fun that I'm invigorated after the show, but I would say 95% of the time after a show I'm exhausted. Unless it makes a lot of money, then I feel invigorated. And the Goyim Defense League is back with information on the most notorious serial killer in history, Jack the Ripper. So I'm taking away from last night's show. It's a good idea to bring in new voices or additional voices to a stream. Not every stream, but more streams. I want to get more voices on, because when it's just Kevin and I, if it's just Kevin and I night after night after night after night, I think it loses something. So I think it's a good idea to get those alternate voices. I know from my own conversations that I see the world differently, express myself differently to everybody I talk to, particularly if it's a real conversation, a deep conversation. and the different people that I talk to, they have a different effect on me. They help me see the world in a different way, to understand myself in a different way. I get new insights depending on who I'm talking to. I get invigorated by new perspectives that I haven't considered. So those are the good things about getting new people on the show. And generally speaking, with these type of streams, the audience largely depends on the guest. I think JF's show, the size of the audience for JF's show, generally speaking, depends on the quality of his guest. And for Warski and the Kill Stream and Heel Turn, these shows, so I don't think my show with Kevin Michael Grace is immune from that. So on our own, we'll get 100, 120 or so viewers so far, 130, 140. But when we have a great guest, then we can push it to 200 and 300 and 400 and more. So it seems like most YouTube shows akin to what I do regularly, their viewership primarily depends on the guest. So the highest number of viewers I ever got was, I think, for a Richard Spencer interview, where we had over 450 live at one point. Greg Johnson, we got 200-300 or so live. Kevin McDonald, 300 or so. Mike Enoch, Eric Stryker, 300 or so. So it seems like the quality of the guest is the #1 determinant for how many viewers you'll get. Kevin does well with current events, film, book reviews. Yeah, he's excellent. Yeah, get Andrew Anglin on. You'll get good numbers, but you might lose your channel. And the Goyim Defense League has it in for Winston Churchill. Okay. Heel Turn gave up on Stryker. Yeah, it seems like Heel Turn and Stryker had a big clash. Diversity is good, but definitely Kevin Michael Grace needs more one-on-one with you more often. It's more penetrating. Yeah, you get into more depth when there's just one other person on the stream. So I think that's how my shows with Kevin will normally go. But diversity, say 2 or 3 times a week, I think also adds something. And how much diversity. And you also, as a host, I'm also aware of personality conflicts, who's not going to be a good match with who, like who's going to be a team player, understand that this is, say, a 5-person panel, that they won't get to speak as much as if it was a one-on-one interview, who's likely to get their feelings hurt, who's just going to end up fighting. But it was great to have Halsey on the show last night, and it sounds like he's doing something good with Deplorable TV, and maybe he'll host a bunch of dissident right YouTubers on his channel. If we all get kicked from YouTube, then we'll be looking for another home, and maybe Aussie English's Deplorable TV will be a place for dissident right to come out and share some dissident right ideas without getting shut down by censorship. And it was exciting to hear that he had 100 advertisers who were interested. We had an interesting discussion last night about code of conduct. Like, what sort of code of conduct? If you're going to engage in, say, a group activity like all being on Deplorable TV, what kind of code of conduct would you want to draw up? Or, as Vox Day says, codes of conduct are defeating because the enemy just uses them against you. So I plan to have Greg Johnson on soon, talk about his white nationalist manifesto, asking him some questions from Bret Stephens' critiques of white nationalism. I think that'd be interesting. It's movie night tonight on the main show with Kevin Michael Grace. Too late, lights turn green. Not going to get to talk about recovery, but I guess recovery means, in the terms of doing these live shows, is that you don't get triggered as often, that you're more calm, that you understand you can't control everything, and so you don't get ticked off, that you can't control anyone else but yourself. You can't control whether they show up, can't control what they'll say. Okay, signs of recovery. You learn to value sex and love and romantic relationships as a byproduct of shared commitment, trust, and cooperation in a partnership. We become honest in expressing who we are, developing true intimacy in our relationships with ourselves and others. Yeah, this is from Signs of Recovery from Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. We become honest in expressing who we are. That's what we're doing here. We begin to substitute honesty for self-destructive ways of expressing emotions and feelings. That's what we do here. Even though no one knows what it's like to be the bad man, to be the sad man, behind blue eyes. No one knows what it's like to feel these feelings like I do, and I blame you. Okay, 8. We begin to accept our imperfections and mistakes as part of being human. Yes, this is a safe place for you to accept your imperfections and your mistakes. Accept them as just part of being human.